Hello, welcome back to the Buffalo First webinar series. Today we have an awesome topic, scam identification and prevention with Katerina Schmider from the Better Business Bureau of Upstate New York. As people are getting more scams and spams and text messages and everything else, we thought that this would be a good series to open up our
Oh,
follow up and
thank
give
you.
some people some tips and tricks to help them protect themselves going forward this fall and into the holiday seasons, especially when you're going to be ordering stuff online, making sure that people aren't contacting you and saying your orders didn't go through, et cetera, et cetera. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Kat to take it away.
All right, great. Well, thank you, Alan and Juliana, for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity. And, before we get started here, Juliana, you and I were talking about scams. So I think it's safe to say that everybody has encountered a scam within the past couple of months, probably. Whether you ended up losing money or not, they're everywhere. Scammers are using text message, email, phone calls to target people, and they're just becoming more and more sophisticated. So, of course, I think this is a really great topic, and hopefully, you can walk away with this with some knowledge, maybe some things you didn't know, and ways to protect yourself. So. Again, my name is Katerina Schmider, and I am the Communications Director for the Better Business Bureau of Upstate New York. I've been with BBB for about 3 years now, and I tell everybody this is my favorite part of my job. I really appreciate having the opportunity to help people and educate them on how they can protect themselves from scams. If there's anything you take away from this, I think the most important thing to remember is that anybody can be vulnerable these days. It doesn't matter who you are or how old you are. So there are things that we can do and things we can look for to protect ourselves from losing money or personal information. So first up, I will talk a little bit about Better Business Bureau for those of you who may not be familiar. BBB itself was established in 1912 in the Midwest. Back then, it was like the Wild West with companies making all sorts of claims about what their products could do and different services they offered. So, a group of business owners actually formed a coalition, if you will, to sort of keep that in check. So, fast forward to 1923. The Better Business Bureau of Upstate New York, as we know it now, was established. So we've been around for just over 100 years. We just celebrated our 100th anniversary in 2023, and we're proud to serve each of the communities that we represent. So we're actually a nonprofit organization. A lot of people think that we are a government organization, but we are not. We are a nonprofit. And we are continuing our century-long commitment to fostering ethical business practices and protecting consumers across communities nationwide. So up here is just an example of, we've been around for 100 years and been through many logo changes. I think you can see one of the older ones behind me. But that is our current logo. On the right, the BBB torch. Next slide. So we are located in Buffalo, New York, and many people don't realize this, but we actually service all of upstate New York. So if you're looking at this little map here, all of the counties in blue are covered under our Better Business Bureau, and we're here for you. So if you live in any of these regions or know somebody in any of these regions who needs help or needs to report a scam, please know that you can contact us. Even though we're located or headquartered in Amherst, New York, we do travel to these locations throughout our service area, throughout the 4 major cities. So Albany, Rochester, Syracuse, and everything in between. We're more than happy to visit different communities, to meet people and offer presentations and share information that we have. Right now, we have about 7,500 accredited businesses. So these are businesses that apply for our BBB accreditation and the ability to display our BBB seal. So they're vetted against 8 standards, and I don't have all of them in front of me right now, but to give you a gist of what those are, it's to make sure that they have the right licensing, that they're operating ethically, they're honoring promises, they're being responsive. That's a really important one. We know that issues come up with businesses. It's bound to happen, but a lot can be said about how you respond to it. So these are all things that we vet and look into before a business is able to earn accreditation. We offer complaint resolution. So if you have an issue with a particular company, we encourage you to reach out to us and file a complaint. From there, whether a business is accredited or not, we have business profiles that list reviews and complaints so you can get an idea of what other consumers have experienced. Just to give you an example, maybe you're looking at hiring a snowplow contractor. I know many people are getting those contracts signed about now probably. So we encourage people to look for snowplow contractors using bbb.org. You can just type in the search bar what type of service you're looking for, then accredited businesses will come up or non-accredited, and you can read the different reviews and experiences people may have had with them. But so often people contact us after the fact. They may have been scammed by a roofer, a paver, and they always say, man, I wish I would have checked with the Better Business Bureau first. So really encourage you to use this as a resource. If you're not a computer person, that's okay. Give us a call. And we're more than happy to tell you what information we might have on a particular company. Then lastly, consumer education. Things like this, going out, giving webinars, in-person presentations. We just launched a student scam and fraud presentation. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But that's just an overview of some of the different things that we offer here at BBB. So into what we're here to talk about today, the top scams reported in our region. We have what is called our BBB scam tracker. And this is an online tool where people report scams to us, and we then publish those so the public is aware of them. I always tell people, regardless of whether or not you lost money to a scam, please share it with us. If you get a suspicious text message or phone call, that way we know what's going on and I can put out an alert. So I'll communicate with local media to put out a press release to tell people that a certain scam might be going around at a given time. Most recently, and I'll talk about this a little bit, we've received lots of reports of phishing scams, people claiming to be from the DMV or Thruway Authority. But reporting it is so important because it helps us keep the communities that we serve informed. So real quick, I'll just go over, we could talk about all sorts of scams all day, but narrowed it down to the top 5, the ones that we hear about most frequently and that you're probably most likely to encounter yourselves. Number 1, online purchase scams. Definitely far and away the most commonly reported scam to us. I monitor our scam tracker daily, and we have team members who monitor it daily. And almost every day, sometimes multiple times a day, there is a report of an online purchase scam. And before we got started, we talked a little bit about how sophisticated these are getting. So there's really a lot that you have to look out for these days. Second, phishing scams. The Thruway text messages I just mentioned, the DMV text messages, emails claiming to be from a company you know and trust, but it's all a trick to try to get you to enter your personal or payment information. Employment scams. We've seen a lot of these since the COVID-19 pandemic. There has been an appetite for remote work and work from home jobs, which I know has been very convenient for people and in some cases employers. However, scammers know that and they have used it as a way to take advantage of people. Home improvement scams, we'll talk about those, and then counterfeit products. So that's just to give you an overview of the top 5 scams that are reported to us at BBB of Upstate New York. And then I will get into more specifics on each. And personally, I'm a visual learner, so I included some examples to kind of show you things you can look for if you receive any fraudulent messages or job offers or you're on any fake websites. All right, online purchase scams. So, some common tactics that scammers will use are creating fake websites that closely mimic legitimate retailers. The one example I always use is Amazon. They're in the top five most impersonated organizations as of last year's data. And scammers are savvy. They can use AI now to help them create logos that look like Amazon's logo, PayPal's logo. That's one I get all the time. So you have to take the extra few seconds to look closely and see if something looks off. Also, in a URL, you need to look closely at that. I've seen reports where, you might be on Amazon.com, but instead of an O, the letter O, there's a zero. So just reminding yourself to take a look for those little things can end up saving you a lot of headaches in the long run. Another thing they do is they offer unrealistically low prices designed to lure shoppers in. I say this all the time, but it's so worth repeating. If something sounds too good to be true, it most likely is. Sellers who disappear completely after receiving payment. So you might send money for something and you try to find an email address or phone number to follow up with them, but you can't. Or social media flash sales advertising products that never arrive. I see a lot of that on Instagram, Facebook now with these little pop-up shops that offer different products, but in many cases, it's a business you've never heard of. Or if you go to click on that profile, it was established a week ago and only has a couple of followers. Those are just all red flags that you can look for. And I suspect, we'll start to see a lot more of those fake websites or products being offered as we get closer to the holidays and people are doing their holiday shopping. So all things to keep in mind. Okay, so here's an example of a fake website, and I apologize, it might be hard to see this, but if you take a close look at these images, and this is something that was reported to our scam tracker, there are things that look off. Like these people were created using AI. But if you weren't very savvy, you might say, well, this looks like Wayfair's logo and it looks like their website. But another giveaway here is to look closely at the URL. And I apologize, you can't see it too well, but it says wayup.shop. That's obviously not a legitimate website. You would be at wayfair.com. But this is just an example of how sophisticated they've gotten with tricking people. Because somebody might not remember to look closely at the URL, or you might be scrolling on Facebook and you see an ad that directs you to this fake website. So just remember to look really closely at these details. And if you were to zoom in here, you would see that there are certain things that are off with each of the images here. So just again, make sure that you're looking extra closely when you're on websites and doing your shopping. So some tips for preventing online purchase scams. I tell everybody this, if you can, pay with a credit card. Credit card companies offer fraud protection, whereas if you're paying with a bank card or peer-to-peer payment app, in many cases, once you send that payment, it's very hard to get the money back. Scammers also love requesting payment via gift card, and you should never, ever, ever send a gift card as a form of payment. Gift cards should be purchased for gifts only. They'll have you on the hook and they'll say, well, just go buy these gift cards, scratch off the back and give me the numbers. They do that because those types of payments are virtually untraceable. So once they get that money, they are gone and you are not going to get it back.
Kat,
yeah,
I
sure.
was in Target the other day and I was chatting with the clerk, and she said she's worked there since March and she's had 5 instances of people buying huge dollar amounts of gift cards just in the last 6 months. It's happened 5 times. One clerk. It's kind of crazy.
That's awful. And
I know.
Actually, New York State passed a law a couple of years ago, and because I'm so involved in this, I always look for it. Stores are required now and businesses to put up a sign that says, if you are purchasing a gift card, it should only be for a gift. You shouldn't be purchasing it as a form of payment. But I'm at Target the other day and you see the sign, but it's tiny. So not everybody might see that. And these scammers, they scare people and they intimidate them. So even if a cashier or a bank teller asks, well, why are you trying to do this? They'll clam up and they won't share why. So, yeah, thank you for sharing that. see, that makes me sad because that's so many instances for one store clerk. So
Recent.
that
I mean,
goes
that's
to,
what I was very shocked when she said it
yeah,
had happened 5 times in her short tenure.
right. And if it happened 5 times there, who knows how often it happened with other clerks in other places. So
Yep.
definitely a good reminder. And like we were saying, you really want to look closely at that URL. Look for misspellings in a URL, unusual domain extensions, or altered logos. You should always see HTTPS and a little lock symbol before a website in your browser, because that tells you you're on a safe, secure website. You want to research sellers on bbb.org. I always tell people, stick to retailers and trust. But feel free to look up any company on bbb.org, and if we have information, it'll be listed there. And trust your instincts. Again, if something sounds too good to be true, it most likely is. And especially if a seller is pressuring you to complete a deal quickly, most aren't actually going to do that. Take the time to think about it and research before you click that final payment. All right, next up, we've got phishing scams. Phishing scams involve fraudulent emails, text messages, or phone calls that appear to come from trusted institutions like banks, delivery companies, or government agencies. These communications contain malicious links or request sensitive personal information directly. So phishing scams doubled from 2022 to 2023, or reports of them to us, and broke a record in 2024. I would not be surprised if we are on that same trend in 2025, just based on how frequently I hear about this and how often I receive these messages. I've received dozens of phony text messages or emails trying to get me to enter personal or payment information. And scammers are using AI to craft more sophisticated messages, so they might not have those spelling errors that they typically would. So everybody needs to be careful. Just one click, one piece of information you've entered could end up costing you a lot in the long run. But I will show you an example of what you can look for. Have any of you received this one yourselves from where they claim to be from Easy Pass, New York Toll Services? It says, we have noticed an unpaid toll invoice for your vehicle. To avoid an extra charge of $150, please settle your balance of $5.89 as soon as possible. And then there's a link for you to enter your bank account information. Well, $5.89 doesn't seem like a huge amount, so people are tempted to just click on it and take care of it. About 6 months ago, I spoke with somebody from the central New York area who, worked hard, lived paycheck to paycheck, unfortunately clicked on one of these scams and lost a few $1,000s. And, that's a lot of money, and that has a lot of consequences. And she was having such a hard time going back and forth with her bank to try to get it back. And I'm not sure if she ever did. But one thing I always tell people is, okay, let's say you've done some traveling lately, especially around the holidays when, we're going to see friends and family, maybe taking a couple drives down the thruway. First of all, they're never going to text you and ask for payment. But if you are unsure and you think this might be legitimate, contact Easy Pass or the Thruway Authority or the DMV through a legitimate phone number and not one that they provide for you in that link. Go directly to the source. I always say try to find a piece of mail from your bank or the government agency that might be trying to contact you. Just take those extra steps to verify that something is actually legitimate. But in this case, if you receive something like this, it is absolutely a scam. They don't send toll violation notices via text message. And I most recently, I received dozens of these in the past year and a half or so, but a new one going around claims to be from the DMV, and they say that you have an outstanding ticket, and if you don't take care of it, they're going to suspend your license and registration. All of the language using pressure, urgency, that also tells you that you're dealing with a scam. They're trying to scare you into acting quickly. So how can you prevent phishing scams? Never click on suspicious links. Verify messages independently. Like I said, contact the company directly using a legitimate phone number or your account statement. Look for red flags like that urgent language or misspellings, or enable multi-factor authentication. So if for some reason a scammer does get a password to one of your accounts, they aren't able to access it. And I know it can be a pain, especially when I'm in a hurry and I'm like, oh gosh, now I need to go find my phone and click on this text message and enter this code. But these are all things that are designed to help you protect yourself. So as annoying as it can be, it is absolutely worth it. Another example I'll use is I have receiving messages claiming to be from PayPal or scam messages. And I'd like to share with everybody that PayPal will always address you by your full name. So it would say Katerina Schmider, not something generic like hello or dear PayPal user. If you see those generic terms, that also tells you that you're dealing with a scam. Unfortunately, PayPal is another one of those organizations that is impersonated very frequently.
And speaking of phishing scams, as a business owner, one of the things that I always receive is from Facebook that my account is going to be suspended because of malicious content or things of that nature. I get those probably once a week. At
Right.
one point, I got it from the same person, so I contacted Facebook outside of that message, and they're like, "No, we don't send those messages."
Right, right. But it's good that you contacted Facebook to check, before clicking on anything, because that can be unsettling, especially if you are a business owner. You've built a following on your Facebook page, and you don't want to lose that. So if they scare you into clicking a link or taking control of your account, it can be such a headache to get it back. So yeah, that's a great point. Reaching out to Facebook to see, hey, is there actually an issue versus engaging with that initial message you got. All right, and we're on to employment scams. So we have received so many reports of these in the past couple of years, and I really believe it's because so many people want to work from home. That has just kind of become the norm in the workplace. And like I said, scammers know that and are ready to take advantage of that. So what we're seeing is a lot of offers that they try to lure you in with great pay and benefits. Again, usually what they're offering is pretty unrealistic. I had one from TikTok that said they were going to pay me like $15,000 a month to work a couple hours a day. So that right there, that's not true. But what they'll do is they'll either impersonate a legitimate company or make up a company name and then say, okay, we're going to send you a check to purchase your work from home equipment. So let's say your computer, your desk, other office supplies. So they send you that check and then ask you to send a payment or Venmo or use a peer-to-peer payment app to send money elsewhere. Well, a lot of young adults aren't familiar with how checks work. So by the time they realize it's fraudulent, that money is already gone. So we've been hearing about this a lot in recent years. And it's, I give presentations at high schools and colleges, and it's a point that I really try to drive home that if you receive an unsolicited offer like that, you should be suspicious, whether it's via email or text message. And then, communications from personal email accounts rather than company domains. I'm seeing a lot of that. So instead of an official email address from a company's name, it'll be from johnsmith@yahoo.com. That's another telltale sign that you're dealing with a scammer and not a legitimate job offer. So here's just one example that I received. And if you see the sender here, it's Pamela, I can't even read that, at outlook.com. So already I know this is fake. Hello, I'm from the ZipRecruiter Recruiting. We noticed that your resume is popular in the market and would like to introduce you to an exciting online job opportunity. We offer flexible, remote, part-time, full-time positions with completely free pre-employment training. You can work according to your own schedule. So that right there is a red flag. and only needed to devote about 60 minutes per day. The salary range is $130 to $510 per day, guaranteeing you a minimum monthly income of $9,000 and is paid daily. All regular employees also enjoy 15 to 25 days of paid annual leave. If you're interested in this opportunity, please contact me via WhatsApp at this number. We're seeing that a lot too. They're directing people to go through these third-party apps because it's harder to trace the communications. But I think we went through it, but there are so many red flags here. And again, if you receive an offer from a company, contact them through a legitimate phone number to see if they're hiring, if the job even exists, and find more information on them.
Well, the WhatsApp is probably the biggest clue at not only the email address, but the WhatsApp, because WhatsApp is generally used for, a lot of people use it for international calling, not domestic.
Right. Absolutely. So again, like if you see something like that, I absolutely do not engage with it or download something they ask you to download or click on any links. So I think, I went over most of these, but you always want to research employers thoroughly, confirm that it's actually a legitimate employer job opportunity. Never pay for job opportunities. Legitimate employers aren't going to charge you fees to apply for a job. At least I've never heard of that. Be skeptical of vague descriptions, and verify before sharing information. So, just make sure something is absolutely true and the real deal before you move forward with engaging with anybody. But if you receive a suspicious message, regardless, it's just a good rule of thumb to not engage with it and block the sender or report it. And I know at least on an iPhone, it's pretty easy to do that these days. That's not to say you aren't going to be contacted by scammers ever again, but at least it gets rid of that particular message. Next up, home improvement scams. So home improvement scammers often use door-to-door sales tactics, claiming they're working in the neighborhood or have leftover materials from another job. They create urgency by pointing out problems with your roof, driveway, or siding that may not actually exist. These scammers typically demand full payment upfront, provide no written contracts, and either perform shoddy work or disappear entirely with your money. They target elderly homeowners and those in areas recently affected by storms or natural disasters. So we would refer to them as storm chasers. Let's say we get a really bad snowstorm here in Buffalo and somebody knocks on your door and says, hey, you can't really see it, but there's an issue up there on your roof. If you give me $500, I'll go up there and take care of it. You never want to accept any unsolicited offers. We hear about this a lot with paving companies too. It's a very popular scam, where people posing as a paving company will come to your door and say, oh, we're doing a couple of other houses in the neighborhood and we have some leftover mix. We'd love to take care of some things in your driveway and we'll do it for cheap. Just write us this check. And then either they put a Band-Aid on it and do really shoddy work or they disappear. And these people are very hard to catch because they move around. Like this is a full-time job to them. So they move around, they change company names. Sometimes they're caught, but it can be very challenging. So we as consumers have to take the time to do our homework and make sure that we're asking a company all the right questions, making sure they have all the right licensing, and taking time to get multiple quotes before just kind of blindly giving somebody money and trusting that they're going to do the work. Unfortunately, that's not the case. We see a lot of these scams. So while you want to trust people, you just can't in these cases. So here's just an example from a local contractor scam that was reported to us. Scammer entered my elderly father's property and said they were doing construction down the street and could repair the chimney on his house with leftover material and agreed on a price. They showed up the next day with 2 laborers who destroyed and removed the entire chimney. Scammer then said the chimney was old, needed to be replaced, roof repaired, and demanded more money, which my father paid. No effort to repair the chimney was ever made. Citywide Roofing and Masonry never showed up on 3 scheduled appointments to complete the work and provided lame excuse after excuse, never completed the work. And this individual lost $7,500. So it just goes to show you how significant these losses can be. Home improvement projects, I know I'm looking at doing several right now, are very expensive. So you want to take the time and thoroughly do your research before you hire a particular company. So some things you can do to prevent home improvement scams. I always recommend getting at least 3 written estimates. The lowest price isn't necessarily always the best deal. So make sure you're looking into other things like asking to see samples of their work or check for references. Um, you always want to check reviews on licensing so you can verify a contractor's license through state databases and read reviews on BBB.org and other trusted platforms before hiring. Pay in installments. I always suggest that people avoid paying in full up front. Many companies will allow you to split payments for projects. So maybe you pay at the beginning and end, or beginning, middle, and end of the project once it's completed. And then, of course, feel free to look up companies on bbb.org and see what other people have experienced. If a company has dozens and dozens of complaints, then you might want to go with somebody else.
The thing I would add here too is, as a past board member of the Home Improvement Council of Western New York, making sure that they're insured and that they have an approved contract to give to clients, because there is a contract that New York State does have for contractors.
Yes, that should be on here as well. And thank you for mentioning that. You should always get a contract and know exactly what's in it before you sign it. Because when people call us sometimes and we try to look into it for them and they don't have a contract, it's a lot harder to figure out where things went wrong. So you really want to make sure that you get everything in writing and you understand the full scope of it first. Thank you for mentioning that. That should have been on there. Lastly, counterfeit product scams. So some popular targets: designer handbags and accessories, no surprise there. Limited edition sneakers and collectibles. We see websites for Nikes all the time, fake Nike websites. And they offer them at prices that are slightly lower than you could actually get them for. And either you never receive it, or you receive a really crummy pair in the mail, or something that looks nothing like what you've ordered. Cosmetics and skincare products, children's toys and safety equipment, electronics and charging cables. Counterfeit products are frequently sold through online marketplaces, social media platforms, and at flea markets or pop-up shops. Beyond the financial loss, these products can pose serious health and safety risks due to substandard materials and manufacturing processes. Now, the best example I could think of lately are these Labubus. Have you guys heard of these? We keep getting reports of fake Labubus.
Lafufus, right? They're called Lafufus.
Yes, I know. It sounds so ridiculous saying.
But the fake ones are Lafufus, aren't they?
Or yes, Lafufus. Yes, that's what. I'm curious when Merriam-Webster's actually going to accept that as an actual term. But yes, people report these Lafufus to us, which look like the real Labubu, but they aren't. So this is all the rage right now. And to my understanding, there are only a few places where you can actually get the real Labubu. If you see these ads on social media, companies you've never heard of before that aren't well established selling them, you might get one in the mail that looks very similar, but it's not going to be the real deal. So I just thought that might be a good example of what to share for an example of counterfeit products. But we see them for all different types of things, like Louis Vuitton handbags, like I said, Nikes, different skincare products and makeup. It really is constant. So a lot of the same advice applies for just shopping smart online, but you want to buy from authorized retailers. Research the seller reputation, read reviews, make sure they seem legitimate, look for reviews that include pictures, click on who's leaving the review, make sure they might actually have a profile, because people do put up fake reviews now. Inspect packaging and labeling, examine the packaging quality. spelling, logos, and product details. Counterfeits often have noticeable flaws in these areas. And again, use credit card protection. Credit cards offer dispute resolution and fraud protection that can help you recover money spent on counterfeit products. I myself have fallen victim to a counterfeit product scam. I, years ago, ordered a Bills jersey from a not so legitimate website, and what I got in the mail was supposed to be, you know, a women's size. This wouldn't have fit my dog. It was tiny, like this big. Um, and long story short, I was never able to get my money back. I had paid with a debit card, and I should have known the price was too good to be true. It was when the color rush jerseys were all the rage and everyone wanted to get their hands on them. But it just goes to tell you it can happen to anybody. And many people I talk to have encountered something similar. So again, I know I keep repeating myself, but do your research and make sure you're familiar with the retailer that you're buying from. So I already touched on this at the beginning. If you do encounter a scam, please report it to us. Every time I go out and give a scam presentation, particularly to a lot of senior organizations, someone always comes up to me at the end and says, "Oh, I didn't want to raise my hand," or "I'm so embarrassed." And I try to stop them right there. If you do fall victim to a scam or lose money, don't be embarrassed. It can happen to anybody these days. The FTC just put out a report that 18 to 24-year-olds are losing more money to scams than those in the 65 and up age group. So scammers are targeting people of all ages, and it's really important to share your experience. I mean, you can report that to us, and we'll never publish your personal information or any details you don't want shared. But it helps us monitor what types of scams are happening in the area so we can then alert our networks.
I
And
think
that our scam, yeah.
I'm not sure if I shared this with you when we were talking before the last time, but I was on a call, one of the big financial service firms. He's a very high up individual in the government affairs. He was called, he had a high school age kid, and he was called, and the person said, "You need to pay for Johnny." They had the name of his kid for their SAT prep class. And he gave him his credit card information. This is like a very savvy, and it was a scam. I don't think he lost a lot. I think he lost like $400 or $500 or something. But I mean, it can happen to anyone. And kudos to him for sharing that on a widely watched, podcast where, thousands of people were hearing that, because I think the more we talk about it, the more we can share the experiences so we can all be knowledgeable about what's out there, because it's whack-a-mole.
Right. You're absolutely right. And just sharing that could have prevented it from happening to two other people who were listening to that, or even any number of people. But by talking about it, it kind of removes the stigma with getting scammed and lets people know what they can look out for. And that's a good example. And it's really unsettling how they have access to your family members' names, but you have to remember, like, our information is just out there now. It's so hard to I guess hide yourself or not be found, or our phone numbers are out there, our names are out there. So you just have to be extra careful and always have your guard up. And I just wanted to mention this really quick. So if any of you in your personal lives know anybody who would be interested in a school program, we just launched our student scam prevention program, because we know that the 18 to 24-year-olds are being scammed at a higher rate than other age groups. So myself and a few others on our team will go into a high school or college. We were just at Niagara University for their incoming freshmen, and I have a presentation that includes a lot of these examples and more that are geared towards students, but it's interactive using a platform called Kahoot. So they play along and compete for prizes. We hand out gift cards at the end, and everybody gets a little, we have these BBB seals as a reminder to look for the BBB seal. It's a little stress ball that we hand out. And then, of course, we have always been going to and will continue to go to senior organizations. But really, if you know of any community group that you're involved in that would be interested in a presentation, I can pretty much create anything, and I can make it interactive if that's something you'd be interested in. And that concludes our presentation. So if you need to get in touch with me, there's my email address. Um, and yeah, if you have any questions, please let me know. I'd be happy to answer.
I think
Well,
it was a great presentation and it just made me more aware of scammers. And thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that. Yeah, I know. They're just everywhere now.
Yep.
Scams have been around forever. They're not going away. They continue to evolve, especially with AI now. I know it's unsettling, but I appreciate that and appreciate you hopping on the webinar.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Of course.
Well, as we were sitting here, I got 3 phone calls, and all of them on my caller ID said spam.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, they knew
They're
that we-
relentless these days.
it's true.
My husband got one last night and he hears me talk about this stuff all day, probably more than he would like to. But he actually got a taste of what it's like to feel really unsettled by being targeted by one, because they said that they were calling from the Erie County Sheriff's Office. He needed to report because he missed a jury summons. He had a guy's name, all these different details. And then when my husband asked for the badge number, they hung up and disappeared. But he felt violated, and I'm like, yeah, this is what they do. So it can be very unsettling, but like I said, it just kind of happens to everybody these days.
So talking about, you mentioned going into schools and things of that nature. I know living in a household with later age teenagers and a wife that likes to shop. When we look at like the Temus of the world and the Sheins and the TikTok shops, are you finding any scams on those particular websites?
Yes. So Temu comes up, friends who swear by it and say, oh, I've ordered stuff from there and it's all been great. But we've also seen a lot of junk or counterfeit products come through there. So I just tell everybody to, look them up on bbb.org and see what other people have experienced first. Like, you can still go through with ordering from Temu or Shein if you want to, but know that you might be getting a substandard quality product. And then, like you said, there's a lot of fake ads out there on Instagram, or TikTok is a great example, because I know people are on TikTok shop constantly, of just totally fake businesses that might be mimicking Temu or Shein or something like that. So you have to be careful. And, if you are clicking on a link or looking at a link or website, making sure it is actually the legitimate one before actually buying something.
They're very good at targeting. I mean, I feel like Alan's getting things that are targeted at him, and you're getting things that are targeted at you. So, I mean, I don't click on any of that, no matter how enticing it looks. Like, okay, I don't need it because I don't want to risk losing money to some kind of scam that's out there, but they are very enticing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Alan, would you say you have some older, you said teenagers? Is there,
19 and
is that primarily where they're shopping these days? Is like TikTok shop, or?
Is it them or me actually? So
Right.
fall into that category as well. Luckily, knock on wood, the products that I have bought from Temu and TikTok shop have seemed to be they're not the greatest quality, but for the price, I understand what I'm getting.
Right. Yeah, I mean, people have said they've gotten decent stuff there, and I know it's not very expensive, so I know it's tempting and can certainly see the appeal with it. So,
but one of the things that I do when I shop, especially if I see something come up on my TikTok feed or something along those lines, is I actually go right to the website itself. I don't click on the link in the person's bio. So I'll actually go, if it's on TikTok, I'll go to the TikTok shop, search the item. And then Temu's the same way, as I go right to that actual targeted, the website or the app directly, just to make sure that what I'm seeing is, the same price or
right. Yeah, that's a good idea. And one thing I wanted to offer was, I know there aren't many on the call, but we have these RFID sleeves that protect your credit card and driver's license from being scammed electronically by scammers, and you need one for each card. So if you guys are interested, I'd be happy to drop these off to you at some point if you want to hand them out at your office. I'm more than happy to do that. Or I can stick some in the mail for you too.
That'd be great.
Yeah, certainly.
great.
I can send you a whole box. We fly through these, but I think it's important to have them, and we just ordered them for passports too. So
That's fantastic. We would love that.
yeah, certainly.
With
Where are
the-
you guys located?
Amherst, Williamsville, by the Eastern Hills Mall.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll drop them off. We're in the area. So
One of the things that, is becoming more popular too is with the whole touch credit card, you just touch. I'm sure at some point somebody's going to come out with a credit card reader that they got to just bump against your pocket to see if you got a credit card in there.
yeah,
that
I think
exists,
they've
right?
already been
That's-
able to do that,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
I think that exists today. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's why
yeah.
you need
I've
those
heard of-
sleeves.
Instances where people get bumped, like you're shopping at Target and you get bumped and they're able to pull the credit card data right from there. I haven't heard of it yet with let's say you're cashing out at the store, the gas pump. I haven't heard of skimmers
Okay.
through the tap to pay yet. But I wouldn't be surprised if something like that comes down the pipeline. We've heard of the skimmers that go on the credit card machines where you insert your card. That has actually happened, a couple of times that I'm aware of locally, at gas pumps or at different stores. So even if you're like inserting your card too, you want to be careful and make sure something doesn't feel off. Like if you wiggle it a little bit and it feels loose, then you might know that there's a skimmer attached to it. But I haven't heard of any with the tap to pay yet, but it would not surprise me. So I wouldn't rule it out.
Perfect. Thank you. I think we're out of questions and comments. I thank you very much for taking an hour of your time to be with us today and providing this great information. Even though there wasn't a lot of people on the call live, we will be sending out a recording and it will be on our YouTube channel very shortly. So people can check out this video and other videos, and then stay tuned for our upcoming webcast. Hopefully on Medicare should be their next one that we're working on now. So thank you very much, Kat. We really do appreciate it. And thanks again.
Of course, anytime you would like a presentation, we'd be happy to do it. So, and thank you for having me.